Welcome to the SLP Stress Management Podcast, your place to manage stress, reduce burnout, and find more balance in your life, in and out of your work. So whether you are an SLP, a teacher, a healthcare worker, an educator, or some kind of helping professional, you're more than welcome to be here for this podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Andrix, and today we're going to be talking about how you can figure out whether it's a great idea to step away from your work or not. So I had a question recently that someone asked me, and while it was asked recently, it's a question I get asked a lot. So I'm going to share this with you today, and this comes from a fellow SLP. So here we go. This year has been so overwhelming. I'm thinking of taking time off from being an SLP. I know that your platform is a lot of stress management and prevention, but did you feel some time away gave you a fresh perspective? So basically with this, we're looking at how do you know if you should step back from your work? Most of you know my story, but if not, I'm going to share a little bit and maybe share a little bit more detail than I've gone into before, or a few more facts about it. So when I was in my third year as an SLP, I had already worked in 4 different settings. I had anywhere from a 15-minute commute to a full hour commute, and that was before traffic. And on a side note, with that full hour commute, this was also when I started my yoga teacher training, which was a further 30 to 40 minutes before traffic beyond my home. And I was doing this 3 to 5 times a week. I had been laid off, I had been fired, and I had quit due to some legal issues with the company I was working with. I also went through 4 different CF supervisors before earning my Cs. So looking back, it's no wonder I hit burnout hard and found it nearly impossible to recover. Because any one of those things would have been overwhelming. While learning to be an SLP, but all of them combined was a real poo storm for the first few years. It wasn't all terrible though. I really enjoyed a lot of the facilities I worked at and had some really wonderful coworkers. I had people there who supported me in my early career and who believed in me as a clinician. There were a lot of really good times and things I loved and learned so much from, whether it was like a CEU course or it was following someone, or it was learning that maybe the advice from a supervisor didn't work in the real world. But there was also a lot of frustration that built up and became all that I could see after a while. So I quit in order to teach yoga, and I swore I would never return, which of course I did after 5 years away and some pretty big life changes. So this isn't meant to be like some, and look how far I've come story, because it's not that. It's more of, would I do it again? I don't know. Would I do it differently? Maybe. And do I recommend it to others? Not necessarily. So this question I get asked a lot is, if I think a person should leave their SLP or helping professional job due to the overwhelming stress, or if they should stay with it. It's one of the toughest questions to answer. So here are my thoughts on it. And this is especially with the demands and the ongoing stress and the overly triggered or ongoing triggering of your stress response that is especially heightened now due to the pandemic. So do I recommend it? For some, it is not needed, and there would be other things that would help. But for some people, it is absolutely what is needed, whether you come back or not. It really depends on a few things that you would know better than me, but there are some ways to help figure out which is for you. So should I take time away from my work as an SLP or helping professional? Here are some things to consider. The first thing to consider is, have you really and truly tried to manage or reduce your stress? It sounds mean, and it's a little like it's all on you, but that's not quite how it's meant to be. Here's the truth. Even when you want to change, it is really hard to undo the patterns and habits that you have been using and living with. It doesn't matter if they are working or are good for you. They're familiar, and change is hard. It's different, even if it's wanted and it's good, and it's scary. So you have to ask yourself, have you really tried? If you have you also given those tools time to work and given yourself time to work through them? So have you given them time to really, to actually work, or did you just try one, and when it didn't completely fix your stress, did you give up and move on to something else, or decide it wasn't going to work at all? And did you give yourself time to work through them? So to figure out, okay, I'm not feeling relief from this now, or this might not be working like the time of day I'm trying it, or maybe there's something else I could try. And be honest here, because when we're really stressed, we want that quick fix, right? We want something to make it all go away and to make it all go away now. But that's not realistic, and it takes time to really manage this and reduce this and to rebuild and rework those habits we have and create new ones. So if you have done this, if you have tried, and if you've given the tools time to work, if you've taken time to work through them, if you have done that and have been working to reduce your stress, but it still seems to be on the rise and your work is the main source, then maybe it is time to step away in order to better manage your stress. If you've really and truly tried and you feel connected to some of these practices, and maybe you're even noticing that it's helping in other areas, but that work piece is still incredibly stressful, it might be time to step away. Again, you would know better than I would here, and it does take a lot of honesty and no guilt and no perfection, all right? So you would know that maybe it is time to step away. Another thing to consider is, like, what do you want from stepping away? So a big thing to look at is like the big why here, right? If it's to take time to reflect, to work through your stress, and you're unable to do that with the overwhelming amount of work that you face, then taking the time away and taking a step back might be exactly what you need. If you're unable to have a moment throughout your day to pause or breathe or stop working, both mentally and physically, then taking a step back might be your best bet. That might be what you need if you are not even able. You've tried to manage your stress, but there is so much and the work is spilling over, like you're actually working at home or you cannot move beyond it, and it's kind of taken over your entire life from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep, and maybe even sometimes in your dreams. Taking a step back might be it. If you're taking a step back to have the stress instantly go away, it's probably not a realistic thing to do, or at least not the only thing to do. This is when you may want to go back and say, it's not going to instantly go away, even if I go to another place. You may need to go back and work on some of those stress management strategies and try some new things. So if you do step away from your work without managing your stress, without really trying to figure out something, the stress won't go away. The exception for this, of course, is like a toxic workplace. But even then, you'll still have some work to do to kind of rebuild that stress response. Because yes, it might feel great to be free from those obligations and those things that are triggering your stress, And that will make it feel like your stress has lifted, and like a little bit may have, right? But it does not help you turn down the stress response completely. Again, it might give you a little bit relief, but once that has been triggered, it's still reacting and it's going to look for stress in other places. It also doesn't give you tools to reduce and manage it in the future, so that maybe you do turn down that stress response, but something new happens at your job and suddenly you're right back in that stressful place because you don't have the tools to reduce and manage it. And not every job, even the ideal job, is going to be stress-free all of the time. So it teaches you to keep leaving when things are overwhelming, not what to do when they are. And it will show up quickly in the next setting or when the next stressful thing passes by you. Managing your stress helps you turn down the stress response so it doesn't keep taking over and keep you in overwhelm and pull you back into it. And then another thing to just kind of consider is like, do you have a plan for your next step? So you might not, and that's okay. But taking time away usually means time to recharge, regroup, and to step away from that like productivity hamster wheel that you're currently stuck on. But when you're used to being productive, when you might have the personality that needs to be doing something, whether that is right or wrong, good or bad, like whether it's a habit you want to keep going with or change, it can lead to more stress and overwhelm if you step away without some sort of plan or a next step. So maybe you set some things, or you ask yourself some questions before you decide to step away. So here are some things to ask. You could say like, how long will I do this for? How long am I stepping away for? Is this like a couple of weeks that I'm just going to kind of take on my vacation? Is this for a year? Is this permanent? And to ask yourself that, is this a permanent change? Am I done with this field? And what do I do now? And then what do you want to try instead, or try for a little while if you're looking to make a change? So now that you have a little more guidance in deciding if you should take some time away, start to work through this on your own. Grab a journal or notebook or a blank Google Doc and ask yourself these questions and write down anything that comes to mind, even if you think it's silly or you've never even thought it before or you're unsure of it. Because once you get it all out on paper, you can go over it again to help you come up with your plan and your next steps and really decide, should you step away or should you stay? Want a little bit more support? Send me an email and we can take time to set up a chat. Jessie@jessieandrix.com. And if you come up with a next step or you have a little clarity, share it in the comments or in your Instagram stories and tag me @JessieAndrix. And no matter what you decide, it's your decision to make, whether it's the right step for you, for your family, for your future goals and dreams. But you've got this. With love and light, thank you so much for being here, and I can't wait to have you back next time. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of simply managing stress. So if you constantly feel like you're managing your stress and you're focusing your stress and you will join me for this new monthly workshop series that's launching soon. So join me for the Resilient SLP. Non-stop, but the effects of it and the way that it sticks with you can be lessened through resilience. In the Resilient SLP, you'll get schedules to bringing more mindfulness into your workplace itself, to things like yoga practices and meditation. And you'll have the opportunity, depending on the workshop, to earn professional development hours, either for ASHA or even for Yoga Alliance. Find out more at the link below or at jessieandrix.com/the-resilient-slp-monthly-workshop-series, or just click the link below. Look for the Resilient SLP starting soon. I can't wait to have you join.